Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today we got something a little bit different for you guys. Today we are going over a $200 final table that I made in 2007. A little bit of a throwback thing. You guys have asked for some tournament content, and while I'm out on the East Coast here, I thought it would be fun to kind of go back and go over an old final table of mine. We'd go through some hands. I haven't pre-reviewed anything, so the commentary you're going to get is pretty much my reaction to things as it goes. I'm not planning on cutting out any hand. We're going to go through every single hand, and I'll probably have a couple videos out of this, probably closer to like 3 or 4 to be honest. There's about 100 hands to go through, and we're not going to skip any. This is the very first hand of the final table. Don't know any of these opponents. I mean, I recognize a couple that did make it in poker, but I obviously don't have any history or anything like that. So I thought you guys would like this kind of thing. So hopefully I'm right about that. A couple things before we get started. If you didn't see the video that I posted a couple days ago, we're doing a tournament this Saturday on UltimatePoker. It's a $5 buy-in. I believe it's at 2 p.m. where UltimatePoker is adding $5,000 to give you guys a chance to try to run it up yourselves. You know, a little overlay to help you guys out. So $5,000 are being added to the prize pool this Saturday at 2 p.m. You have to be in Nevada to play, unfortunately. If you're outside of Nevada or you can't make it to Nevada, no big deal. Don't worry. Plenty of cool promotions and giveaways coming to you soon. Don't worry. I'll take care of you guys. Don't worry about it. So yeah, that's Saturday. And also, I decided that it would kind of be fun to maybe do either a solo video or maybe even like a segment in future videos where you guys can write questions, whether they're about poker, life, MMA. Really, I'm going to leave it up to your own creativity. But I opened up an email address, dearjcarver, yes, at gmail.com. So dearjcarver@gmail.com. If you have any questions, anything really reasonable, no guarantee that you make it on, but if it's good and interesting, and maybe even a little funny, gets you some points. If you're interested, fire away at dearjcarver@gmail.com, and you might see your question on a video. Ding. That being said, let's get started. Enough of that. So let's talk about, first thing let's talk about before we get into this too much. Yeah, talk. I did it already. I've been home for like 4 days, and it's like, let's talk about getting some coffee. So the first thing we want to talk about here is let's identify stacks and situations, right? So whenever you're evaluating a hand history or anything like that, you really want to find out who has what kind of stacks. That's obviously the most important factor to start off. So the blinds are 17,000, 34,000. And it looks to me like we've got a player here that is pretty short. This player's got 2 big blinds, which is obviously really short. Couple players with in between stacks. This guy's got like 12 big blinds. This guy's got a little more than that. And then us 3 here with about 2 mil. These 3 of us here have got like 2 mil. And VT Laxer's got 1.2. This guy's got 900. So just looking at these stacks generally, we're going to want to open slightly tighter for the time being, purely because of the fact that this guy is kind of short, without knowing anything about players. And if we knew something about players, we would make some deviations. But just purely based on stack sizes, we're going to want to play slightly tighter with a guy behind us who has 2 big blinds. This guy's got 700K. You know, we're going to want to play slightly tighter, but it doesn't really matter what this guy's got with 80K. That doesn't make a huge difference, but just a slight thing to note there. We'd also expect that I hate to lose will play pretty tight. If he hates to lose, he'll really hate to lose 9th when this guy's got 2 big blinds. So you're going to really see some upset player there if he hates to lose. So we're going to expect him to play pretty tight. We're going to expect M. Jorgensen. He's the only player that I recognize at this point in my life, although I think I know VT Laxer too. So I think these 2 and Mavfish are the only MTT regulars, tournament regulars that I recognize. So I think these 3 are all at least decent and maybe better. I don't know. And these guys I don't really recognize. So I would imagine that they'll put some pressure. These 2 will put pressure on the rest of the table if they can. VT Laxer can't go too crazy with M. Jorgensen on his left, and yeah, that's just generally my base expectations for the start here. So our opponent, whose name I don't know, Johnny 1987, decided to raise, which I think is relatively reasonable, with a the ante is 4,000 chips. With an ante of 4,000, the fluke only has he only has a little bit of time before he has to pick a hand to go with. Looks like he decided not that one. This shove from Mavfish has to be so strong, you know. Like imagine that him shoving here. Like he has to have something decent just because the fluke is so short. Like he should be very tight here. Like I would be surprised if he has. I mean, he might have whatever, but I think if he's playing perfectly, I don't know what he should do with like 2 9s. I mean, I guess it depends on whether you're playing to win or just playing to properly play, like and play the climb the payout ladder, you know. But given that this guy is so short, this should be a very tight shove, especially into the fact that it's not. Here's a reason why it's okay to shove a little bit lighter. If he had shoved a hand before into a guy with 2 million who's going to call almost always, that would be a that should be a really tight shove. Into a guy who hates to lose and has the same pressure situation going on, this can be a little bit lighter, I think, because I hate to lose can't just call with like King Jack, obviously, right? So I think given that, this can be maybe a little bit lighter, but I would guess that this is going to be a pretty strong hand. King 10 here under the gun +1. I think we can raise this. I mean, we haven't seen any reason, based on what we've seen so far, I haven't seen any huge reason not to raise. I'm not too concerned about the guy behind me with 2 big blinds. If he decides to put his chips in the pot, I'm not really too concerned. And no one else behind has been aggressive so far that we've seen, at least with re-raises pre-flop. So I don't think, this is a little bit loose, but I don't think it's too bad at a final table. Also, we could just be, even if we have no history with anybody, and of course at the time I actually did, but even if we had no history whatsoever, I'd like to kind of find out who's going to be re-raising, who's going to be calling. Like we have to kind of we don't want to assume that our opponents will put pressure on us without actually seeing them put pressure on people. So in this spot, it looked like we have an open and a re-raise, kind of a small re-raise, but looks like it got the job done. It's a great time to put pressure on people with re-raises when there's a player who's so short, because no one wants to go out 9th when 8th is, I'm sure, several $1,000s more. So it folds to us. Okay, we just got to walk. Never mind. We would have probably had to call against Mavfish. So once again, we expect Mavfish to have to shove pretty tight, just given the short stack in the big blind, who is now in the big blind. So M. Jorgensen decides to raise. I actually think that, I wonder with these stacks if it makes sense to call with the intention of likely checking it down, just because of the fact that this player is almost for sure going to have to call all in, and the dollar equity of having our hand in there, he's going to bust a little bit more often. And the EV of the call isn't too bad chip-wise. I think if you look at the situation, I think that calling and then checking it down is probably correct, given just how many chips we have in comparison and the price that we're getting in the pot. You know, we're putting in an extra 65,000 and to win 170K plus his 25K in there, so it's actually even more than that. And it likely gets checked down very often. And we almost never will go broke because we'll play pretty conservatively post-flop unless we have like a flush or a full house, something like that. So I think I'd like to see myself call and then check it down here, but looks like I decided to fold. And actually, big blind decided to fold too, which is something. So that is almost certainly incorrect, just purely based on the math of it. You know, no one's going to make a mistake here, and somehow we ended up folding the button, which is also a mistake. We should almost for sure be calling the button here and just running it down 3 ways, but looks like we did decide to fold for some reason or another. We actually were dominating. We were dominating him. We were in first place with the 9-5 offsuit. Looked like flush over here, so we wouldn't have won the 3-way all-in, but we did lose the fluke 12,000 in 9th place. I don't know exact payouts, but I know vaguely payouts, so I think that was probably he busted for about 10,000 total. Shove here from Mavfish, reshove from Balderdash, and Ace Jack is most likely the best hand. Yep, we've got ourselves an all-in. Queen 10-4. I love the drama of this replayer. It's like the perfect timing. It's like just long enough to get you to sweat it. It's great. All right, so we've quickly lost 2 players, 7 remaining. Probably a bust out now would probably get you about $18,000 for your trouble. Not the worst. Blinds go up 12 to 20,000, 40,000 with a 5,000 chip ante. Not an enormous difference. One of the things that I actually kind of learned when I was starting to play more of like the stud games is you always want to be aware of what the blinds are going up to be, because sometimes the blind structure is a little bit weird. Let's pause this for a second. Sometimes the blind structure is a little bit weird where, like, let's say for example we were playing 500, 1,000 with a 200 ante. versus playing 500, 1000 with no ante. That's a very significant difference, and different card rooms have both of those levels. They're like at Caesars in Vegas, they don't have an ante at 50, 500, 1000 for some insane reason. And at other places, there's 200 chip ante, which is also equally crazy. Like, so being aware of what the blinds are, what the differences are, it should impact what your plan is and what your strategy is. And being aware of that and being able to kind of create tactics to exploit changing battlefield conditions almost is something that good players should always be aware of, in my opinion. So looks like we have a raise or a shove under the gun and a call in the big blind, pocket threes. Looks like ace queen is going to take this one down. So at this point, we've had some pretty major pocket queens. All right, we'll play pocket queens. But you can see that we've had some pretty major chip redistributions. We've lost to 2 short stacks. No one else really is that short, although we do have Apple Dome and I Hate to Lose, who are both in like a race for last place right now. But nothing too crazy. You know, no one's got a ton. We're actually chip lead because of M. Jorgensen losing that flip. I decided to raise here to 110,000, which is insane. 2007 Jay Carver doesn't mess around. He's like, raise it up, 110,000. Yeah, that's right. What are you going to do? All right, well, we took it down with our huge raise, unshockingly enough. Very well played, Jay Carver. Pocket fives, 110,000. That's what we're doing here. Yeah, that's right, 110,000. All right. Looks like we do get a call in the big blind. King Jack 4 flop, not the best for pocket fives, but we're still likely to have the best hand. I'd like to see myself bet here once. I do bet 175 seems okay. Again, a little on the big side, but you know, it's 2007. We all had huge hammers for weapons in 2007. Why not? So we get check raised here, and I would really like to see myself fold. I can't imagine I do anything else. Calling seems very ambitious, even if we do have the best hand and he has like ace 10 of diamonds. He's not going to just like check. Most likely, we can't assume he's going to just check and give up on like the 9 of hearts turn card. And there are so many turn cards we make mistakes on, even if we do have the best hand. And if we don't have the best hand, we're very, very, very behind. So we do fold. No, not too painful there, but had I perfectly bet sized that and made it like 90k pre-flop, and then, you know, if I bet like 130 on the flop, we would have saved like 2 big blinds or something like that in total, or at least a big blind and a half or so. So if we had been playing a little bit more optimally, I think we would have had a bit more success, but no big deal. Jack 10 offsuit has to go in the muck with a raise and a shove. Pretty big reshove for 1.5 million. I mean, obviously it's we cover him, so it's a pretty large shove, but he gets it done. Queen 9 suited on the button. I assume we're gonna raise. Okay, 110,000. All right, we're sticking with that number. Okay, so we do raise it up. I don't know what I would do to shove, making it 110k. We almost like commit ourselves to calling because we're making it so much. I guess I hadn't discovered min raising yet. This is definitely at this point in my poker career, I hadn't really had much live success. I for sure wasn't friends with Daniel Negreanu yet, who was a very large influencer in my poker game, particularly my live poker game. But I hadn't met him yet. We weren't friends yet. This was pretty early in my poker career. I mean, 2007, so it was six years ago. Yes, I did look at my clock, by the way, to check what year it was. That was that glance, by the way. So 6 years ago, pretty crazy. I was 20, I guess, or 20 when this was going down. I was like, yeah, I'm 26, right? All right. Good to know. Don't know what year it is. Don't know how old I am. That's a professional poker player for you, I guess. All right, so we're cruising along here. King Jack offsuit in the big blind. Don't know. Surprising to see if this player fold. I mean, slightly surprising. Again, 2007, so not like a player's going to be super aggressive. I assume we're going to defend in a big blind here. Against a raise, I think we have several options, but I think calling is certainly best, especially against the 3x. We could re-raise, but I don't really think that accomplishes too much. Pretty sweet flop for us here with King Jack. I'm probably going to end up calling, but maybe there's something to be said for raising. 2 players that are kind of short with like 12 or 13 big blinds. I don't really want to just put it all in here, but blind versus blind, if we had to, we wouldn't have a choice. This is weird. So he decides to check. We bet, of course, which makes sense because we have King Jack here. Top pair, good kicker. And he decides to check min raise. So 2013 Jay Carver is very afraid of this. Like this is very scary to me because when someone decides to raise pre-flop 3x and then check min raise this flop, I'm a little scared, but you know, you really don't assume that he has like a set here or something like that, because if he has a hand like 2 3s or 2 10 or 3 10s, you would think that he would check raise a little bit bigger to kind of protect himself. There's a lot of draws out there that make some amount of sense. You know, diamonds, straight draws. There's plenty of things that make some sense. So check min raising though, still, even though I'm like a little suspicious, I still am kind of concerned here that this is something strong. But we can't just fold. Of course, our hand is just too good to fold. But I'm worried. I don't know. I don't like it. All right, so we decide to call. Also, one of the things you have to realize is that, let's say to ourselves that we're Johnny 1987, and we were born in 1987, so it's pretty close. So let's say that we're Johnny 1987, and we have a hand like King 9. Is King 9 going to check min raise? Almost not for sure. Like, why would he ever do that? If he has a hand like Ace Queen, is he going to check min raise? I don't really think so. If he has a hand like 6-7 suited, is he going to check min raise? Again, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you do that? If you had a hand like King 8 of diamonds, why would you check min raise? It doesn't make any sense. So there are lots of hands that I don't think this is a bluff very often. It would be a very, very, very absurd type of bluff to make here. So I don't think he's bluffing, but I think our hand is too good to fold. So we decide to call. 3 is a pretty good turn card for us, right? Because it makes it a little bit less likely that he has 3 of a kind, because 3s are hard to have now. And if you did have any kind of a draw, we're ahead significantly now at this point. With a million chips in the pot, we're certainly a little worried. He decides to check, which is surprising, but makes me feel really good about our hand now, because I would just be, although I suppose he could have quads and is just like, I'm going to be the trickiest, I'm just going to be the trickiest little guy you could ever ask for. All right, and we decided to check here, which I actually think is like catastrophically bad. I mean, like back in these days, I didn't quite realize that there were other bet sizes besides like half pot or bigger, or at least I don't think I did, because I would really like to see a bet on this turn card, just straight up for value, for protection. You know, even though I don't think he has too many draws, we have the best hand here just so often, and I think he folds so rarely that I would probably like to have seen us bet, even if we just bet like a quarter mil, 300K. Those are great numbers to bet. You know, there's only a million behind, so 300K is great. What more can you ask for? If he check raised all in, we would have a really tough decision. You know, but again, we would probably end up calling because our hands is just too good. You've got a full house or quads. All right, take the money. Thanks. Enjoy. Sorry for wasting everyone's time here, but yeah, I think I would have preferred to see a turn bet. Now he bets 440K. You know, I can't imagine that the Jay Carver of 2007 would ever fold this. Actually, I can't imagine Jay Carver of any year would ever fold this. But you know, I find it very hard to believe that he has a hand that has 2 diamonds in it. It just doesn't make a lot of sense that he would check min raise and not like check blast it in, you know, or just bomb it to begin with. This seems very unlikely to me. However, I don't really think he's bluffing either. Like, I would think he has a hand that's like a 10 or something that we beat, or like maybe some sort of a weird, really weird type of hand. Given the fact that we have to call 440 to win 1.35 million, I think that we can't fold here. Getting 3.1 to 1, we have to win 25% of the time to break even. We certainly do. So I do decide to call. Queen Jack. All right, we shipped that 1.8 mil pot. That's pretty sweet. I don't like hate his play with that hand, although, like, you know, the river bet is just like asking to be given the business. Like with that particular hand, like I think betting the river doesn't accomplish a ton, right? Because imagine if we have worse than Queen Jack. If we have like Queen 10, do we call the river? Maybe. He gets value from some hands for sure. If we have like Jack 7, we'll call, and like he definitely gets some value from worse jacks, but we can very reasonably have diamonds, we can very reasonably have Queen 9. It makes very little sense that he can have, I guess we'll let the hand play out. It makes very little sense that he can have, you know, any of those major draws. So we can put a lot of pressure on him there. Not that we're likely to like bluff shove, but it's possible that we could. I mean, I don't love his bet. Also, he bet kind of a lot. He bet 440K into 900. He bet like half pot. So I think there is either a better bet sizing that like ensures that we big pot here, straight for Apple Dome. Just a queen and a flush draw. Ooh, and he gets there. Unlucky for Apple Dome. He had raised button. I don't think anything else was that interesting, to be honest. But that was that. So yeah, I don't love that river play with Queen Jack. I think there's something better there. But again, it's, you know, I'm not here to judge anyone. It's 2007, so we're all fish in 2007. What do we know? So look at the way I played like several of these hands. So all right, looks like weird hand. So M. Jorgensen limp, shove, fold, call. Very weird action. You would think that this player would just shove anything that really wanted to shove in the first place against the limp, right? You would think if he has a hand like ace 4, he would just shove against the limp. He wouldn't like call and then call a shove. So this, I don't know what this is. I'm really surprised to see this. I couldn't even guess what this hand is. Deuces makes sense for that player. King Jack, wow, that's crazy. Let's see a flop dealer. King 3-3 is a good start for the King Jack. All right, weird double up. Really surprised to see that hand just didn't shove over the limp, but I mean, I guess it is a way to play the hand. So our only person that's re-raised, oh no, he's actually all in now. Never mind. I thought he had more, but he just lost it all. Ooh, great spot for him with pocket 5s. Can't ask for much better than that. Oh, just 2 4s? Boom. Nope. Boom, 2 5s. That's it. Get out of here. Get out of here with your pocket 4s. It's actually been awesome being out here on the East Coast for like 3 days. This was meant to be more of a work trip, but it turned out to be a little bit more of a vacation. And I haven't taken a break since Scoop, which is in April. So I've pretty much played poker or done some sort of work every day since April. So this was really nice to take a little bit of a break and kind of just see some friends and family that I hadn't seen in forever, and just, you know, it's been nice. It's a little something different. I'm an East Coast kid, no matter what. You know, it's nice. There's grass. There's a little humidity. It's, you know, people talking about coffee and stuff. It's great. I feel like at home. It's amazing. It's you know, I lived here for 26 years. I just moved to Vegas 3 months ago, so it's nice to be back, that's for sure. And the break was nice too. But, you know, and I appreciate almost all of you being very patient with me while I was taking this relatively unannounced break. So we'll be back making run-ups later this week. And I actually have some cool live videos planned also for the next couple of days from stuff from here. We've got ourselves, you'll see. It's cool. But I'll be back in, wow, you know it's 2007, because I don't think I would fold Queen 8 there to a 1 point. I would consider it, but I doubt it. But yeah, so we'll be back making videos back in the Run It Up headquarters soon enough. I'll be out there relatively soon again, but we'll be back. We're back on the video track now, so no worries. Everyone we can stop worrying. Our videos are back in town. So I decided to raise here to 126K, which seems like a fine raise size. Could make it a little bit less, but I think it's fine. And we get re-raised and just fold to, even though we're getting a great price, I'm pretty confident that that's a fine fold. Oh, he owns us and shows it too. Boom! Get out of my face! He's like, the deuce and the 6. Look, I was so tight during these days too. There are so many hands that I fold that I just can't believe that I'm folding, and I'm just like, and he's still re-raising us, you know? This might be the tournament that I was just like, I'm never folding the re-raises ever again. Maybe this was it. This was the guy that showed me the bluff, and then I said, all right, I'm never getting bluffed again. I'm just going to call all the time. Maybe this is it. So I believe this player raised, called, and then there was some checking and calling going on. Surprised to see this player check back on an ace turn. You would think that the ace would improve him more often than our opponent. Ooh, 10 jack. It makes sense that he checked back at 10 on the turn just because of the fact that it makes sense that he's like, you know, thinks he has the best hand, is kind of controlling his way down to the river. Doesn't need to bluff on the ace because he already has something. It's not a very good something, but it is something. So, I mean, it's fine. It's a 10. It's likely the best hand. And if the other player is better, he's not folding. So I can understand the check back there. It's certainly a viable strategy. A little walk for the good guys in the big blind here. We'll probably play maybe we play 20 hands. It depends. We'll see time-wise, because some of these hands are quick and some of these hands take a long time. So we'll kind of just see how it goes. Ace, queen, offsuit on the button against a raise here. It's an interesting situation between calling and re-raising are both viable here. I think that 2007 Jay Carver, my guess is that I end up calling, but 2013 Jay Carver probably would. I mean, let's base this on the dynamic. Given that we haven't re-raised much at all, I don't really want to re-raise here with ace queen. I mean, we're going to re-raise in the call or shove, obviously, but I haven't re-raised at all yet, like literally zero. I'm not sure what our dynamic is. I'm not sure what our history is. Like, what the correct thing to do here is it's entirely based upon what our history is, what he thinks of me, if I know this player at all. Like, that's all depending perfectly on that. Whether you call a re-raise here is kind of a up-in-the-moment decision, I think, but I think I slightly prefer calling to re-raising given everything. Wow, that's a big re-raise. 650,000. Okay. Don't love it. Don't love it. I think that I should have probably just made it like imagine oh brother. Imagine that our opponent has ace 10 suited and he makes it 150k. And we make it 650k. What does he do with ace 10 suited? He just mucks it. He says, oh, you must have something good. Guess what we do? And then he just folds. He plays perfectly against us by making a big re-raise like this, because we're basically saying, would you like to be all in, sir? Yes? Okay, good. You can be all in if you want. And what does he call all in with? Like, it's literally like tens or better, ace queen or better. So he doesn't really make mistakes. He folds some pairs, which are mistakes, but he doesn't make a ton of mistakes, especially when you compare the fact that our options are not fold or 650k. Our options, we have so many more options. We have so many more options than that in no limit hold'em. And I think that, like, if we make it 400k, 380k, 410k, any of these numbers in that range, we give the appearance that we could be light, because we could just be attacking it. We give the illusion of fold equity, right? Which means that he might think that there's a chance that we're just attacking him and we'll just fold to his re-raise. So let's say he has ace 10 and we make it 400k. Now he's like, is he messing with me? Is he just gonna fold if I shove? When we make it 650k, we're clearly not folding when he shoves. So I would have liked to see a smaller re-raise here, but it's 2007. What can you say? So we do get it in very badly here, which is not a surprise, unfortunately. Oh, we just gave it the old Toshiba treatment, though, and just drilled it there with the old queen ball. Really not the best hand I've ever seen in my life there. I think of all the aspects of my game that have improved, especially from this time in my life, given that I know who my friends were back then, my game was much more like post-flop. I was really like a cash game player. I like getting it in there, messing in the streets, I wasn't really like a pre-flop wizard by any means. So I'm not surprised that I kind of botched that a little bit. I mean, it's a little bit unlucky because what I did is certainly viable. By the way, this was an interesting decision between calling and folding, but I think that it's too much. It's, if we had king queen, maybe we could consider it, but he's shoving for $1 million. King 10 is just too weak to call with there. Despite, I know there's at least one super fan who loves the old king 10, but nope, not this time. So this hand, deuces against the min raise, I actually think we could just shove. I think 2013 Jay Carver would be inclined to just shove here most of the time, just because you don't really want to call, you make some mistakes. There's certainly a good chance this player is going to just fold whatever he has if we shove, and we pick up this 205,000 chips without a showdown very often. So I think we could shove this, but I do decide to call. And big blind calls. So we've got ourselves a post-flop. Yeah, post-flop poker. All right, so king 6-4 checks around. Probably have the best hand here. I'd like to see a turn bet by me, just to kind of, maybe there's a chance that they'll fold a better hand than ours if he has 9-4 suited, something like that might fold. Like a weak 4, maybe even like a weak 6. I mean, I guess that's optimistic, but it's 2007. We're all optimistic. Maybe there's a chance that they'll fold, even just like a hand like 9-8. We'd rather see fold. We don't want to check and call, right? So I think I prefer betting to checking here. We probably have the best hand. If this guy had much, you'd assume he would bet flop. This guy certainly can have something, but he is in the big blind, so he is more likely to have nothing than something. So I think when you analyze all the factors, I think a bet makes more sense than a check. Old Jay Carver agrees with me. I actually even like my sizing. And we do get a call. So our opponent has a little more than pot in the river. The question is, do we bet or should we check? If he has a hand like, okay, so let's ask ourselves this. Certainly, if we bet, he's not calling with worse, right? He's not calling us with ace queen. It's the next worst hand on the list, right? He's not calling with ace queen if we bet, or unless we bet like 50k or something. which is an option. It is an option. Is there a chance he folds better than us if we bet? Yeah, for sure, right? If he happens to have like threes, 4-3, ace-4, 6x, there are some pairs that he might fold if we bet, especially if we bet a ton. So I think that's viable as well. But I probably, there's a decent chance that he is connected somehow to these upper cards, like he's got some sort of like a straight draw, ace-high type of hand. And I think that I don't hate checking and making a decision. I think that's what I did decide to do. So I checked, and he decided to give me the business, all of the business. He's decided to give us all the business here. So this is it's a tough decision because, I remember this hand very well when it had happened, and I was pretty confident that if this player had something on the flop, he would have just bet. And he could have a hand like 7-8, but wouldn't that just bet flop more often than not? Like, could he have a hand like 6-5? Yeah, 6-5 makes some sense. He could have 4-5, 6-5. He could have pocket fives. He could have a hand like Jack-5 suited, King-5. Like, there are some hands that make sense, but we've seen him do things that are a little bit, I don't know how I interpreted them at the time, but I interpret them now to be a little bit amateurish. I mean, I did the same types of weird things, but we've seen him do some things like that check min raise before. We've seen him do some things that are a little inconsistent with standardly accepted poker logic. So I don't necessarily think that this shove, you got to give it a little bit of doubt, but it made sense to me that he had a hand like Queen 10, 10-9, diamonds, ace 10, something like that. But at the time that this hand was played, this was the biggest stage I had ever been on in poker. This was my first major final table, 110,000 up for grabs for first place. It was a pretty crazy moment. I had felt like I was running pretty good, playing decently enough, had a good read on my opponent. Even if I had lost this hand, I would have still been chip lead, actually. So I really kind of just have always in my life decided to go with my gut when I wasn't sure what else to do. And I'm going to pull up the chat, I think. So I decided to call. And he had the old busted flush draw for what was the first of many sick calls in my life. I remember at the time how insane that it was. I think I'll actually, because I don't have it pulled up already, I'll dig it up, but I remember the chat exploding when I went through that, exploding. So it was a crazy moment. I've got it somewhere. I can share it with you guys on Facebook if you want to see it. I'll post that later on today. I'll post that chat log up in case anyone wants to see it with the hand history and everything included. So I think it's a great spot to stop because that's a pretty cool stopping point, I think. So we'll be back more tomorrow. Probably we'll either finish this video or get close at least. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, this Saturday, 2 p.m. or so, there's a $5 buy-in tournament on Ultimate Poker. If you're in Nevada, stop by it. It'll be fun. You get to run it up. $5,000 overlay added. That's pretty great. I'll be making a video out of it as well. I'll be playing for sure, making a video out of it. I might even do a stream out of it. So we'll be doing that. And if you've got any questions for me, don't forget, comment, all that stuff. You can also email me, dearjcarver@gmail.com. Would love Dear J Carver, why are you calling with pocket deuces? This is crazy. Yeah, great. Whatever. Send it over. I'd love to read it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And I'm really excited to be back on the video wagon. I hope you're excited to have me back on the video wagon. I will see you guys with more tomorrow. Peace.